Welcome to the American Institute of Healthcare Professionals Videogram on behavioral addictions. And this video corresponds with any of our substance abuse programs, but I think it can also very easily correlate with any of our spiritual counseling as well as Christian counseling programs, because addiction is something that is more than just the body itself, but it is also something that encompasses the mind and the soul itself. So my name is Mark Moran. I'm the Assistant Executive Director, and I'm filling in for Dr. Dominic Fleury, our Executive Director, on this video. So what is behavioral addiction? Well, behavioral addiction is something that is compulsive and excessive, and it's an action or a habit. So the action or the habit has the characteristics of being compulsive, but also to an excessive point. The activity in the moment brings a high or a happiness, but later, because it's not a good habit, it brings about shame and later guilt. And this activity continues to have negative results that begin to become larger and larger as the person continues to partake in this particular type of addictive behavior. Now, these behaviors, they're risky and they're excessive and they're habitual, but sometimes in themselves, if used in moderation or for fun, they can be innocent. But the innocence quickly is mutated into something that is excessive and very negative to the individual's overall life itself. And we see some examples listed here, such as gaming, gambling, pornography, sex addictions, shopping, food addiction, exercise addiction, and as well as any other type of drug, drinking, smoking itself, marijuana, any of these things that are kind of considered maybe even low level in terms of danger in themselves if done here or there or in the moment of fun. So whenever anything is taken with excess and taken to that next level where it becomes compulsive or excessive, then we start to see an addicting pattern emerge within individuals. So what type of dangers can be associated? What type of dangers can be associated with the types of addictive behaviors or activities that were listed? Well, with gaming itself, as innocent as that seems, there are many individuals who order or purchase a console, a various system, and they start playing the various computer games. And a lot of these games are very encompassing in that they take everyone's attention away from everything else. So these individuals can start to become antisocial, and they can start to lack time for family, work, or school. And this is where an innocent thing, playing a game or a game that's like a quest or a game that involves a lot of time in building up various resources to succeed in the particular game. Well, when this exceeds from something innocent as an evening of leisure to something that dominates every thought to the point where you get home, you have to play this game, then the game itself can take over the individual. And that's just how gaming becomes an anti-social addiction in itself, something extremely innocent at the beginning, becoming something very detrimental to one's overall health. Gambling obviously is well documented. Gambling here and there with money that is set aside or used for gambling is one thing, but when gambling comes to the point where one has to gamble to feel good and it affects one's income, it leads one to losing their home or falling into debt to very dangerous individuals. We've all seen what happens, especially in the various movies where individuals fall prey to loan sharks. Sex addiction as well can be very risky because it's no longer about just sex itself, but it becomes something that leads to dangerous decisions with partners and leading one to potential venereal diseases because one no longer takes the precautions necessary. And again, there's that keyword excess. Pornography also can be something that can ruin relationships if it's used selfishly or used as something that is a way to escape reality constantly. So individuals can become very addicted to that. This is why it's also listed as a sexual addiction. And for those within the more Christian counseling spheres, it's considered something that is sinful in itself. Food addiction as well, believe it or not, many individuals become addicted to food and they're planning their next meal while they're eating the one that they have. And also shopping addictions. They can cause much financial distress. Sometimes these addictions are tied to depression, bipolar mania state, where an individual enters into a state of mania where they have to do. And sometimes a lot of these things can fall under mania, especially sex, gambling, and shopping. And a lot of these vices, when tied to drug use, can also be tied to one being depressed or upset. And most of the time, it comes down to dealing with problems the wrong way, improper coping mechanisms in themselves. And that's how they become a addicting habit. Individuals don't know how to cope with stress or grief or loss, and they fall into these traps. Now, these bad behaviors afterwards, they're compulsive and they're excessive, and they leave the person in a high in the moment. But later, you can tell you start to have an addictive issue when you feel bad about it the next day. You've already acknowledged that it's a bad habit within your mind. You've been told, you've seen the destruction that it is causing in the life of yourself. But then comes that immense feeling of guilt and shame and regret. So there's a wish to stop at this point, but because of the habit, a habitual cycle, and the fact that it's in many cases a vice, it has become almost part of your regular pattern of existence. And we see that with some of the great vices in life, with lust, with greed, with gluttony. Something without temperance to balance these vices so that an individual doesn't fall prey to excess. Now, the best way to avoid excess is through counseling. If one understands that they have an addicting habit, also counseling groups that share the same addictive habit, peer counseling groups, and of course, family support. Now, what is a big thing that one can do? And that's avoid the occasion of the action itself, or as they say in theology, the occasion of sin. And that's through staying away from certain things that evoke those feelings and those emotions in you that make you want to partake in a particular action. If it's drinking, stay away from the bars. If it's a particular lust, then you stay away from pornographic sites or images or television programs that might drive you to those types of things. Ultimately, these behavioral actions and addictions destroy the quality of life and the relationships that surround an individual. They're destructive in their nature because they're compulsive, because they're excessive, because they drive one away from what is good. There's a list of individuals that usually can help: pastoral counselors who are ministers, Christian counselors, priests, licensed professional counselors can help, especially ones who are certified in addiction care. Peer groups, Alcohol Anonymous is an example of a peer group, but there's a peer group for almost every vice. Family support is extremely important. Individuals who don't have family support sometimes have less coping mechanisms and they find themselves alone and they fall prey to these types of things. Individually, avoid the person, place, or thing, whether it's a strip club, whether it's a casino, whether it's a bar, whether it's a television program. whatever is going to incite within the individual these types of compulsions to do things in excess, especially avoid. Have someone that you can call when tempted by this particular addiction. Cope with issues through healthy alternatives. There's a variety of other ways one can get away from a particular temptation. Maybe exercise, maybe meditation, maybe a particular song. So meditation and spirituality, world philosophies, self-control, discipline, and denial are all important skills that one can learn and start to master over time. But of course, with addiction, there will be setbacks. But the ultimate goal is to get ahead, to move forward, to trudge forward itself. For those who have more serious addictions with licensed professional counselors, they can go through cognitive therapies or various medications that can help one control these types of desires. Below is our substance abuse practitioner program. There's the link. Our number is 330-652-7776, and our email is info@aihcp.org. So in conclusion, addiction and the behaviors that come with certain things that one takes into excess is a big problem for many people. It can be as innocent as gaming to as insidious as drug abuse and anything in between. It's important to cope. It's important to cope properly, to find the support that one needs, and to avoid those occasions of sin. So if you feel you have these issues, if you feel compulsed and then you feel guilty later and you know it's taking away from your social life, seek the help that you need, find the temperance and the balance that you need to take control of your life again. Thank you for listening and have a good day.